Let's get ready to rumble!
Alright, this is the Killer Bees group discussion on the Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. And in our group we have Mr. Devlin, Miss Parr, Miss Christian, me, Mr. Holodak, and Mr. Rader. And to start us off, we are going to start with Mr. Devlin's question.
My OQ is, did Greta take her new career to provide for herself and her family? Or do you think she was coming out of the shadow of Gregor, like in a sibling rivalry?
Well, first off, I think that Greta and Gregor's relationship was so strong, and I didn't think there was any bad intentions between them. I thought they were always on the same page, and they always wanted to help each other out. So I think that Greta did it because she saw that Gregor had done so much for the family, and now that he is going through a rough time, doing his whole transformation, that it's kind of her responsibility to kind of take the head of the family, because she's seen both the parents aren't very successful in doing that, so she just feels like she's the next man up, I guess.
I was taking this question kind of out of personal experience, because me and my sister are really close, but we definitely have the sibling rivalry competition going on. We always try to one up each other, so that's how I was kind of picturing it, because I do think they are really close and are kind of on the same page, but I was just curious, since she took a job as a sales girl and was studying stenography and French, to get ahead, if that was something she was trying to do to one up him.
I also feel now, she didn't do much beforehand. Neither did the parents, but I don't see it much as a sibling rivalry, except for now that she sees her brother going off the deep end, she needs to better herself, because her brother can't be always there to take care of her. And I just feel she, out of the whole family, realizes that the most. The dad does get a job and everything, but she seems to be not only being a salesperson, which is her brother's career, but learning French. She's going one step further. So she could be a sibling rival in that way, in which later she was trying to better herself, but I don't think when he was normal, she really needed to compete, like Mr. Rader said.
I don't really think it was a rivalry that made her kind of better herself, by getting the job. Because it talks about on the last paragraph on 118, the very last page, about how much she kind of grew from the beginning of the story. So it kind of seems like she might just not have been old enough to really go out and get that job and be able to work for the family and provide for the family. And now she is someone who can, which is why she was able to go out and get a job, better herself, and try to get a better promotion in the future with the French and stenography.
I would have to agree with that as well. I don't really think that it was a rivalry. On page 63, it says only Gregor's sister had remained close to him at all this time, and it wasn't until later, for example, on page 105, where she says we have to try to get rid of it. I think she just comes to the realization that the family needs to sort of move on, and she needs to take matters into her own hands because her brother cannot carry the family anymore.
I also think that, as far as the trying to one-up Gregor, I feel like her with her violin playing especially, she always tries to kind of show it off and make her whole family proud, because they all think she's a special talent and want her to be so successful. And the fact that she has this unique skill that Gregor doesn't have. And they kind of, I don't know if they shelter her, but they kind of hold her back because they want her to focus on that. And at the end on around 99, when she's playing in front of all the people and they're all so attracted to her, I feel that she's kind of takes it, kind of runs with that, saying that this is my skill that I have that Gregor can't do, and now that he's not capable of doing anything, this is what I can prove to everyone that I'm actually very talented and can be successful.
Yeah, I agree with that. It makes a lot of sense actually, because I think she might have even one-upped him early on with the violin playing, and that's why she became so sheltered. Gregor didn't really have a talent. He was just a worker, so he became the family workhorse, and she was the talented child who they kind of sheltered.
I wonder if Greta's violin playing towards the end of the story was pre-planned to try to get rid of Gregor, because she knew that when she was going to play the violin, that Gregor was probably going to come out and scare the lodgers that were staying with the family. And then all of a sudden, that's when she goes, oh, well, and then the chaos happened, and she says, oh, we have to try to get rid of it. So maybe it was a chance for her to prove to her family that it's time to get rid of her brother. So that was like the rivalry. I could see that in that aspect.
It could be like a sibling rivalry too. Like it, she, cause she knows how to play like the violin, and she has the talent, and she like felt like Gregor's like working and providing, and like that could be one way, and like she was like, I gotta get into this, you know, and maybe it took that like one stab to make her realize it longer before.
Just go back to your point about how I'm just kind of, yeah, I kind of blanked out for a second. Yeah, about how it was a setup. Mm-hmm. At that point, she didn't really think of the bug as Gregor anymore. So I think the sibling rivalry kind of loses its effect there. It's just she wants to get rid of Bug, not so much Gregor.
Yeah, she let go of her brother altogether.
Yeah, she let go of her brother before that even happened.
But I wonder why she would do that if the bug came out during her violin playing. She knew that Gregor was attracted to her playing. I don't know. I just thought maybe it was, she would have thought it was Gregor because the bug was attracted to her playing, but maybe it could be right too.
I think part of that was right, that he was so attracted to it, and I think part of it was for her to like see if it was still him or not. And then I kind of think she got scared and then just kind of went into denial about it.
Maybe.
And was just like, no, this is definitely not him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, also, like, about the part where he's, like, so fascinated on page 101, it says that Gregor crept a bit further forward and ducked his head down close to the floor so he could perhaps catch her eye, and he said, was he a beast that music so moved him? It's kind of weird how he thinks of a beast being something that is moved by music when it really should be Gregor as the person that's moved. Mm-hmm. Because I wouldn't consider an insect being capable of being moved by music. Right. So it's just kind of interesting that he views it, like here he's actually viewing himself as the beast Gregor, not the human or like, yeah, I guess the human Gregor form, which is kind of interesting because like he keeps saying like how, because he wants her to come back to his room and, because he's the one who wants to go send her to school and stuff, so he's the only one who actually appreciates her and like wants to reward her, but he still is like this beast that can't relate to her because she's now terrified of him because she thinks that he's like gone pretty much, which is, so it's like a weird dynamic.
Yeah. All right. So now we're going to go to Mr. Rader's question.
Okay. So my question was based on the whole theme of family duty throughout the Metamorphosis. It kind of calls to mind our own role in our families and how they're ever changing due to different circumstances. Like, for example, with Gregor's transformation, everyone had to kind of adapt and take a new role. And I was just wondering how, if anyone had comments on how, whether it's specific examples, like in their own lives, of how they've noticed kind of their roles changing in their families.
An example in my family is I was always the responsible one in my family because my parents both worked and I had to take care of my brother because I was the oldest. But when I left for college, my brother had this realization that he was now the man of the house and he had to make sure things were done and the responsibility was sort of on him, which I think Greta is trying to fulfill this role of, okay, now the responsibility is on me. And but as you see from the end, she kind of gets, I guess, tired of this responsibility, or it just seems so much that her brother is now a burden on her.
Yeah, I think, like, on the page, the bottom of 61, when it says that now Gregor's sister was forced to do the cooking and concerned with his mother to be sure not much effort was involved as no one did much eating. So I think it's kind of like someone not wanting to accept their new role, and the fact that she's not putting any effort into it, she's not ready, I guess not mature enough to become more of an adult. So it's interesting to see, like, for example, if you're a kid, like your parents give you kind of like harder chores or more chores as you grow up, like a teenager, you're very like reluctant to do it at the beginning because you don't see like what's the point of this, like why do I have to do it? It's not my job, like it should be my parents' job. But it's almost like throughout the book, she becomes more used to this new role and kind of accepts the fact that, you know, now I'm older and now that I should be kind of taking my own responsibilities, which is, I thought that was pretty, like, telling.
Yeah, and on 66, like you said, I mean, they say she's only 17. So, and like her duties list here would be dressing nicely, sleeping late, helping around the house, taking part in a few modest entertainments. So, like, she really has to grow up really fast during this. So that could take like a huge like damper on like the whole family. Like they said that the dad is like overweight and the mom has asthma. So those are like problems that they have health wise, and she just has to. She doesn't have anything like physically like enabling her, and so she just has to like real quick grow up. And I think that puts like a lot of like strain on the entire family too, not only Gregor's problems.
I found the dad's transformation kind of interesting because I don't think he really learned anything. I think he just kind of adapted to the moment with his job because he was kind of overweight, and I just don't think he wanted to work or really provide anymore. So when Gregor turned into the bug, like they all went out and got jobs, including the father. But then, you know, at the end, like they're talking about Greta page, the last paragraph, 118, and it does seem that him and the mother just want to marry Greta off so that they have someone else to take care of them, and more like financial freedom, I guess.
What about the mom too? Like, I feel like you don't like truly get a grasp of like her in this like book as much as you do the dad and Greta and Gregor. Like they're just not. She doesn't seem to be as affected. Like she's like Greta will like put a strain on her for like getting mad at her for cleaning the room and stuff, but she's like the only person I can't quite figure out too within the family dynamic.
I'm curious if that's just like the time period.
Yeah.
When like, you know, like you just kind of do what you're told, and not, you know, like women specifically like didn't really have like as huge a role, so I feel like that might have been like a holdback.
Yeah, very true. Could be like because she's like an older woman, you
Yeah.
know, like Greta can like get a grasp on like progression.
Yeah, because of that, I feel like Greta was kind of able to switch responsibilities with Gregor. Like Gregor had always done all of the work and had brought in money, and now Greta's kind of taking over now that Gregor can't. So, like, because with me and my sister, like, I always had to look out for her because she's younger, and that's what my parents told me I had to do. And now she looks out for him more than anything else. Like, even when his mom tries to clean his room, she doesn't want him to do that. It's her job. She wants to look out for him now.
Okay, then we'll go to Ms. Parr's question.
Okay, so my OQ is sometimes in life we may feel like a bug because we're going about this daily routine that can sometimes seem meaningless to us. So was Gregor's transformation more of a punishment, or was it sort of an escape from his daily routine?
I definitely see it as an escape because, like, in the very beginning, like the first like few pages, he's already waking up from like a panic of a dream, and like you don't do that unless like you're super stressed and you want to like you're thinking about something else like in your subconscious. And like even when he's talking about like human beings need their sleep on page 23, like he's like I need like this is slowly like driving him like insane. Like he wants to maybe like that's even a hint to just like sleep or like do something else or get away from this entire world. I think that's just the beginning of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. On 23, at the beginning, he's just been turned into this bug, and the first paragraph on page 23, he says, "Good Lord," he thought, what an exhausting profession I've chosen." And I mean, like, if you were turned into a bug, like, I really don't see that being a priority in your head. So I do think it was kind of an escape for him, and it was more of, like, a mental thing.
I definitely think it was an escape at the beginning of the story, but as it kind of goes along, it seems to become more of a punishment because he can't do anything towards the end of the book. All he can do is sit in the room and just kind of crawl around, and if someone ever brings him food, he can eat if he wants to, but he never really does. So even towards the end, he starts punishing himself, it seems. Because he doesn't eat, he doesn't sleep, he just kind of goes through the turmoils of the day and does nothing else.
It could be like an escape to like knowing you're not good at something. Like as you see, the salesman says he's not good at his job. Like he hasn't been making sales in like this time period, and he just like that's like horrible to think about yourself. You're just like, I'm not good at something that I've been doing and providing for my family, and that would need you to like escape to another career maybe. But this just took him off the deep end.
I think it could be both a punishment and sort of an escape, because on page 34, when his mom is describing him to the general manager, she says he's been back in the city an entire week now, but he spent every last evening at home. So that could sort of be like the punishment, but at the same time, because he's spent every week at home, he sort of wants that escape from his work, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I have kind of a theory, the fact that I saw when I was reading the book, I saw that him becoming a bug is kind of a temporary thing. I thought it was going to be something that was going to either wear off or he was going to go back to being a human, because I think, like you guys said, he was in so much stress and he was so overwhelmed that most people want to take, like a week or two. It's like, he kind of like took like a vacation almost, just a week or two off to kind of regroup and like, recharge the battery, but then it became a punishment, so that was like the escape, but the punishment came when the reaction from his family was so negative, he kind of had no help from them. It was almost like he needed someone to help him from the outside and kind of like wake him up and say, you've done a lot for us, like, we appreciate it, blah, 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 like, here's what we feel about you. Then he's kind of be like, all right, they actually like appreciate what I'm doing. Then I'm gonna like get energized again, go back into the workforce and kind of maybe adjust some of the roles, having other people help, but I'm still gonna go back and be doing my job. So I thought that eventually, when I was reading it, that he would become a human again, because it would be a temporary escape for him, and depending on the reaction of the family, he would either be freed or serve more punishment. So that's, I thought.
The way that his family treats him is sort of like a punishment, but do you guys think he actually deserves this? The way he's being treated, and I guess his transformation in general.
I definitely don't think he deserves it. I think in the beginning, I think we all need once in a while we need a little bit of attention, and his family just doesn't give it to him. And like we said, it going from an escape to a punishment, he didn't even get that attention from his family, and he just got sucked in. And it was maybe he could have he expected too much from them, and that was maybe punishment for him. Even though personally I don't think it's his fault, but in the way that his family sees him, they are punishing him for needing that sort of attention.
Yeah, on page 63, the fact that they say that all had grown accustomed to this arrangement, not just the family, but Gregor as well. So he's saying that they gratefully accepted the money first, and he was happy to provide it, but the exchange no longer felt warm. So, like you said, I think he wants some of that attention, saying, like I said before, just being appreciative and showing that they actually like what he's doing for them, and he's really the one supporting the entire family. And I feel like that was the case originally, but they just got so used to it, and so kind of it became so routine that it kind of wore off, and he was like, what am I doing if they don't even care? Why would I just keep doing this? And so he kind of I guess lost it almost.
Yeah, to kind of go off of that, on top of 31, he's trying to get out of bed for the first time since transforming, and he says it occurred to him how simple things would be if only someone came to his aid. And I don't think that's just for getting out of bed. I think it's his whole life. If anyone in his family had helped him in any way to kind of bring money into the family, he wouldn't have had to work so hard, stress himself out so much, and kind of, I guess, snap in this case.
Yeah. Okay, now we'll move on to Mr. Rader's question. Oh, sorry, Mr. Holodek's
Yeah.
question.
Okay, so I was wondering if being turned into the bug was kind of representative of a mental snap, so to speak. Back in the day, there was this term going postal where people were just so stressed out about their work and home and social life that they just went crazy, so to speak. So is this something that happened to Gregor when he was, and is represented by the transformation into a bug?
I don't know if I would call it a snap that Gregor went through, but I think he is irritated about his job and wants a change. Because on page 23 at the bottom, it says, "I like to see my boss's face if I tried that sometime. He can me on the spot, although who knows, maybe that would be the best thing for me if I didn't have to hold back for my parents' sake." I think he just doesn't really like this routine, and he is holding back for his parents' sake because he loves his parents and his family very much. But I wouldn't necessarily say that it was a snap.
Yeah, I see it as more of like a long time coming than anything, because like even as we said before on page 37, when his the general manager was just explaining like how he's been doing at work, like your productivity has been of late has been highly unsatisfactory. So it just like that like work pressure gets to you, but I think it wasn't one specific instance that made him like turn into a bug.
Yeah, the snap, I guess I might have misconveyed it. It's not something that happens just randomly out of nowhere because of stress. It's just like it was built up over time because of all the like pressure that was put on him throughout like the last couple of months or so, or any time period really. And he even talks about like his job and how it makes him feel on page 23. He says all this early rising, he thought it's enough to make someone go soft in the head. So even he is referencing like how someone can go crazy from like having to work the way he does.
Then I would say postal snap.
Yeah. I
For
would
my
agree.
description before.
Yeah, I would agree with that because it talks about him not really having much of a personal life outside of work. He just goes back to his room and just kind of hangs out. And his parents and sister don't really seem to like ask him how his day was or ask him how work is. And I feel like when that kind of stress builds up and it seems like no one's paying attention to you, it does build up, and eventually I think there would be a snap.
Actually, yeah, so on page 36, I can kind of see where there was a snap too, because it says, "I have always known you as a calm, sensible person, and now it seems you've begun to permit yourself the most whimsical extravagance. There seems to be a change here, which could signify that there was a snap."
Yeah, also on the bottom of 62, when he talks about his only concern had been to do everything in his power to let the family forget as quickly as possible the catastrophe that plunged him into a state of utter hopelessness. So I think he does go postal because this is a massive burden on one person. And like you said, he has no personal life. All he does is work. That's all he thinks about. Like he has no friends, no whatever. His family is there, but they're not really there. He doesn't really interact with them or connect with them besides his sister. So I think he just loses it. He goes postal. He can't continue to go on like this and needs a change, whether it's going to be him getting fired or him just I guess turning into a bug, but in another sense just quitting or just kind of giving up and moving away. But he feels so attached to his family, and he's such a family guy that's why he doesn't really leave, because he just sees it as his responsibility as kind of the new man of the house to dig their family out of this, even though it wasn't his fault to dig them out of this hole.
So I think this goes into.
Well, no, I just have like one other
Sorry.
point. Because top of page 44, he's looking at a picture from his time in the military, and it kind of got me thinking maybe, because it never really talks about like what he did in the military. So if he had seen like a lot of battle, it could have even been something like PTSD that eventually caught up with him.
So then it brings me into my question,
Yeah.
which is kind of like, does Gregor actually turn into a bug, or is this just like a mental illness?
I think it could be taken both ways. For the sake of the audience understanding the depth that the author's trying to reach, I think it's on the surface level where he physically turns into a bug, but I think this goes way deeper. On the first page, when it talks about he woke up one morning from troubled dreams, I don't really think that was just a dream that he had overnight. I think it was basically his life, all these troubles in his life. And then somewhere else, let me see. Yeah, and so throughout the book, he's just it's basically him dealing with his life, but the author sort of used the bug so that we could comprehend exactly what I think he's trying to say.
Yeah. What makes me think this is when we were talking in class about the wings reference, I kind of took that sentence a different way on page 56, where it said he had become somewhere. It's not as if he might have flown away. I kind of took that as it's not like he could fly away. He's not necessarily a bug. I think he's just standstill, going through depressed state. You see him line up, his job, his lack of sleep, as we see again on page 23, and then when Greta shouldn't be startled by his appearance on page 68, it's he's laying there motionless. I don't think, it says here, there's no particular call for his sister to be startled by his appearance. She came into his room a little earlier than usual and discovered him motionless and propped upright, as if for horrific effect gazing out the window. I don't think it's because she's seen him for such a long time, but that his shape hasn't necessarily changed.
Yeah, that propped upright is actually kind of a big hint there. I never actually read that before. I kind of missed it when I went over it.
Yeah.
Because how could a bug really just be sitting there propped up looking out a window,
Yeah.
So it does actually hint that he is still in his human form.
Mm-hmm.
I can see a lot of it being that he is still in his human form. The only 2 points that I would say he is actually a bug is the first time he comes out and his father beats him back into the room with a broom.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that could be taken as a psychotic break where he's just going crazy. And also when his father throws the apple at him and he gets stuck in his back.
Yeah.
I can't think of a
Yeah.
psychological thing that would have represented other than if he was actually a bug in it.
When I saw that, the apple going in the back, I kind of just saw him being so frail,
Mm-hmm.
and skin and bones, and it just literally being lodged in the back of him, even as a human. Maybe his skin was deformed. And that's just the image. Whenever I read the whole book, I didn't see him as a bug.
Or it could have been the pain that he was feeling felt like the apple was still there in his back, and the pain just basically stuck with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I think he actually is a bug due to the fact that this is a fiction. This is fiction, so
Yeah.
you could write this saying he's actually a bug. It symbolizes him going through a mental illness, but he's still actually a bug in this story because, on 21, they say he has this hard shell like a bug. A human will have a hard shell. He has so many bug mannerisms and characteristics that develop. I almost see it as him kind of transforming even more after him waking up. He's becoming more and more insect-like. So he might be maybe half insect at the beginning and kind of slowly drifting more. And it's almost like him losing his identity or humanity, becoming less and less of a human and becoming more of an insect because his mental illness is becoming worse and worse. So I think it's just a big symbol in the whole metaphor in the
Yeah,
in the
I feel
whole
metaphor. Yeah. It's very true. Anybody have any last comments, thoughts? Good. All right. This has been the Killer Bees.